If you're looking to make changes when you initially open Tebis, the first thing you're going to want to do is edit what's called a database.cnf. So I'm going to show you where you can find this file, some tips and tricks on how to edit this file, and some important settings that are going to be in there. So when I open my Tebis starter, I can see my release here. I'm going to look for this templates directory. I'm going to click on this little eyeball here in the templates, and the file I'm looking for is called, again, a database.cnf. I should be able to find that right here. And this is just like a CAD file that I can go in and open and make changes. Maybe I want to add a CAD folder. Maybe I want to add some toolpaths, or I want to make some changes, what external files I'm looking at, and so forth. So if I right click on this, I like to copy it and go to a different drive. And then I'll make a new folder, and I'll call this Tebis Edits. You can call this whatever you would like. It doesn't really matter. This is just something that works for me. So if I right click now, I'll say new folder, and I'll put today's date on there. And then I'll paste that file right in here with today's date. That way, if I make changes, I'm not corrupting anything that's I'm currently using, and I'm not going to make any changes to something old in case I got to revert back. So I'm going to drag and drop this onto here and open this up. Okay, so once this file is opened, I can see here, this is my initial CAD structure. And then I could look here, and this is my initial CAM structure. I already have a couple folders and things that are created, but maybe I want to make some changes. Maybe there's a certain thing, a certain folder that I don't like, certain thing I don't like, things like that. I can just right click and delete, or I can add to. Maybe I want to add a folder for any sort of CAM programming elements and things like that. In the top left, if I click on Tebis and then I click configuration, I can now get to the settings of Tebis. So in my user interface, I can make changes here. So if I click on units, I could say inch instead of metric, possibly. I can go to the control tab, and I can switch from no repetition to always repeat, or repeat with a double click. I could turn on a frame or a ruler while working. Just depends on whatever you like when you're programming your job. If I'm looking to kick on external libraries, I'm going to go to this machine technology folder, and underneath management, we'll see things such as tools, units, clamping devices, connections, machines, and post processors will be defined here as well as tool magazines. So if I look at the tool tab here, I could see a little checkbox for an external file with a CAD file here. What this is defining, it's defining a CAD file. So if I go back to the Tebis starter and go into the libraries tab here, I could take a look at this folder, and I should be able to see a CAD file here. Now it's going to pull the tooling from that CAD file. You see that's rather large. Well, I don't want my file to be that big, right? So I'm just going to pull tooling from there. So if I click on the tools, I can now look in the external library, and I could see a whole bunch of stuff here. For example, all of these flat cutters. And if you want, you could always copy something out of an external library, and you can insert it locally and then work this way. So another thing I want to talk about while you're editing the database.cnf is, what if you want to change the name of your tooling? Maybe this isn't exactly what you want to see. That's also possible. So if I go to the Tebis configuration here, underneath this name pattern here, also in the machine technology, I can change the name of the tools. So if you click on this little top drop down area here, I can choose what type of tool it is that I'd like to change. Spot drill, center drill, chamfer tools. And I did copy some flat cutters locally so we can show this as an example. So here's my flat cutters. And then I'm going to start this from scratch. So if I take a look, I can now change the automatic naming of tooling to fit whatever my shop desires. So I can I can take a look here and say percentage, and let's say T, maybe to start. And that will apply a short identifier. I can also type in something here. So if I want to call this a flat cutter with a little dash mark, and then I can apply something different. So maybe I want to apply the diameter. And I can even put the word diameter here. Okay. I can type in the length and type in percentage L. And that'll automatically call out the length as well as the radius. We'll say percentage R. So R is down here, right here. And now I can have a customized name for my tool. So if I say OK, and then go back into my tools, I can now right click on this folder and say auto name assign. And that will automatically assign all the names here for my tooling, depending on how I'd like to actually name everything here. A couple other settings that you can make changes to would be anything in the job planning. If you're looking to turn on the length here for your tool collision check. If you want to change the pictures for your documentation, or even set a standard documentation for your shop, you can do that here. Once I make these changes and I'm quite happy, I have the folder structure that I'm happy with. I can also make new NC machinings, new NC programs, and then have something pre-set up. So when I bring in a job, I have cutter paths ready to go. I'm going to save this file here. Let's close out of Tebis. And then in that Tebis edits folder where I have that database.cnf, I'm just going to copy this back to my templates folder here. So once I paste this in here, I'll replace the file. And now when I open Tebis New, I should be able to see all the updates that I had made. So if I'm looking for different external drives, or I want to make changes, or I have different naming for tools or anything like this, I'm going to be able to see it now. So I'll just say file new so we get a good example. So I just have an untitled CAD file, and you can see here on the left, this CAD folder was created. Also in my configuration, I'm set to inch, not metric. And that's how you update the database.cnf and make changes that are going to apply to your shop directly.